You have probably heard the word fascism before. This term, evoking a dark period especially in Europe, is now commonly used as an accusation. In this video, we'll delve a bit deeper into the subject of fascism. Stay tuned. The word fascism comes from the Italian word fascio, meaning a bundle of sticks symbolizing the strength in unity, drawing an analogy between a bundle of sticks and a single stick. From this, it can be understood that in this ideology, collectivism is a key element for strength. Now, why is it of Italian origin? The serious presence of this concept in reality goes back to the National Fascist Party in Italy, which seized power in Italy after World War I, led by Benito Mussolini. Over time, this title evolved into a more general concept. Alongside the Fascist Party in Italy, in Germany, the Nazi Party led by Adolf Hitler also had a similar ideology. Fascism is a vague concept and different individuals use it for various purposes. Generally, fascism negates certain ideologies such as liberalism, socialism, and democracy. In general, fascism aims to establish a powerful nationalistic government. On the other hand, there are 7 principles in fascist logic. The ambiguity surrounding the concept of fascism, along with diverse interpretations, stems from disagreements on which characteristics truly define fascism and which one are unique to a particular fascist government or movement, and not necessarily universally applicable to the entire ideology. 1. Collective identity. As stated earlier, a key feature of fascism is the prioritization of the collective over the individual. This collective inherently defines itself and shapes a collective identity. Nationalism and racism are the 2 prevalent forms of collective identity in fascism. For instance, in Italy, the focus was on Italian nationality, whereas in Germany, the emphasis was on the Aryan race. 2. Legitimation of violence. In fascism, violence plays a crucial role, contrary to the prevalent notion that deems violence undesirable. Within fascism, violence is considered natural and in some cases even positive. Consequently, war is perceived as a desirable phenomenon. This belief ultimately led to the onset of the largest and bloodiest conflict in human history, World War II. 3. Totalitarianism. Totalitarianism in fascism means that the government does not allow any opposition to operate. Fascist governments are usually single-party systems, and not only are rival parties not allowed to operate, but freedom of the press and expression is severely restricted, with a strong repression against dissent. Another aspect of totalitarianism is the involvement of the government in all aspects of private and public life. Many people, when talking about fascism, are referring to totalitarianism, but totalitarianism is one of the features of fascism, not its equivalent. 4. Charismatic leadership. Typically, fascist systems have a charismatic leader who is considered somewhat superhuman, and loyalty to this leader is highly emphasized. Italian fascism is most associated with Mussolini, and German Nazism is associated with Hitler. 5. Populism. Populism, rather than being a supporter of the general public, is more of an opponent to the elites. It describes elites as corrupt individuals who work against public interests, and it sees the solution in eliminating them. Populism generally carries a negative connotation and serves as a pretext for the removal of elites, considering them a threat to power. 6. Emphasis on masculinity and youth. Given the set of characteristics, masculinity as a symbol of power and violence holds a higher position in fascist ideology, and women are often considered more responsible for managing the home and childbearing. Youth is also valued as a symbol of dynamic power, and naturally it receives more praise. 7. Nostalgia for the past. Within this ideology, there exists an idealized past that calls for revival. For instance, Mussolini sought to resurrect the might of Italy, akin to the Roman era, while Hitler aimed to reclaim the ancient Aryan race and purify it from any racial impurity. As I mentioned, there is no theoretical consensus on the enumerated features, and some do not accept certain features as defining fascism. Nevertheless, the most agreement revolves around these principles and characteristics that have been outlined. The German Nazism and Italian Fascism have been the most famous experiences of humanity with this ideology. However, besides these two examples, there were other instances. From the 1930s to the mid-1940s, fascism gained popularity. Economic hardships and the inability of governments to cope with the crisis of the Great Depression were among the main reasons many people leaned toward a strong government to solve their problems. Fascist groups formed in most countries around the world, and in some cases such as Japan, Spain, Portugal, and Romania, they came to power. However, the end of World War II, with the defeat of fascist countries known as the Axis powers, placed this ideology in an excessively weak position. From that time, the mid-1940s, fascism turned into a negative concept. Most fascist parties and groups were disbanded and fascist governments collapsed. However, there were exceptions. For example, General Franco in Spain continued his fascist system for several decades. A concept that emerged after World War II is Neo-Fascism. Neo-Fascism does not differ much from fascism and is mostly used to distinguish between fascist movements before and after the war. Today, no group identifies itself as fascist or neo-fascist. Instead, this label is mostly used as an accusation against right-wing parties. It can be said that fascism is one of the most negative concepts in political science. Fascist governments committed violence and extensive crimes. In addition to initiating World War II resulting in over 60 million casualties, of which 40 million were civilians, these governments carried out extensive crimes against their own citizens. Concentration and extermination camps, mass killing of opponents, and even groups not approved by the government are examples of these crimes. The crucial point is that these events occurred directly as a result of fascist ideology, and fascists cannot define the duality between fascist ideology and the experience of fascist governments. The reality is that currently, as values like freedom and rejection of violence become widely accepted, the resurgence of fascism in its historical form does not seem feasible. However, far-right groups gaining power in many regions worldwide can be seen as descendants of fascism in some way. Firstly, because they are not in power, and secondly, due to the changes in the world, they differ slightly from classical fascism, but still the belief in a superior nation or racial identity, and hatred and opposition to anything outside this identity, in forms such as xenophobia and anti-immigrant sentiments, remains the most crucial identity element for far-right groups. It was a brief overview of fascism. If you found this content informative, please like it and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to share your thoughts, comments, and ideas for future topics in the comments section. Thank you for joining, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.